Hey guys, it's Matt and Joe. We can't call it Tuning Tuesday.
No, it's
What do you want to know Wednesday?
what do you?
There we go. Fire away. Been a while since we've seen you kids last. I think last time was with Chuck when we were doing. Was that a Black Friday stream? Yeah. So almost a month ago now.
Joe, you're in the corner. You can't spin.
Yeah, I'm okay though. And
I almost fell over the first time I tried to spin. Not right.
we're just doing a little holiday stream for you guys, get you caught up on some new stuff and talk about some stuff we've seen recently.
Talk on that show we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So first thing to talk, we have two little action figures up here for you guys.
I don't know what purpose they serve other than to entertain me.
Yep.
So, and oh,
It's a fan. It's a wacky flailing arm flailing, inflatable flailing tube man. All right, so first up, we have Gen 3R budget kit. We released, I don't know, was that a couple weeks ago or a week ago or something? What does the Gen 3R budget kit include? It includes a
we've got some technical difficulties. Of course.
technical difficulties.
Who do we blame? Chuck? Oh.
We'll point fingers in every direction.
Brian's like, blame me. I'll Danger to manifold. It should do not touch the light.
I'm not touching the lights. I'm touching the gap that the lights are in.
We're looking at the RGBs, but they're missing the GB part.
Yep. Ah, hit the man down.
Oh, we're good.
Oh, boom.
Look at that. Ooh.
All right, that's fancy.
Okay.
All right, so we're back. Gen 3R budget kit, I'll rehash that real quick because we kind of had a technical difficulty there. Gen 3R budget kit, we're selling Gen 3R superchargers at a reduced price.
Yes.
Gets you the kind of like a bare bones kit that just has the stuff you absolutely need to get your car running and boosted.
Yes.
92 millimeter pulley. It comes with our older bracketry setup,
Twin 60.
a Roush Cold Air, twin 60 millimeter throttle body, 56s, and no fuel pump booster. So if you're looking for like an equivalent style kit, that'd be kind of equivalent to like a Roush Stage 1 or Phase 1 kit.
Yeah.
But with the advantage of the bigger blower that we offer that gives you quite a bit more headroom to grow into than the Roush 2300 blower does.
It's also be a good suitable kit if you have a bone stock car with cats, if you live in an area that has 91 octane and you want
You just want to boost your car.
You just want to boost your car. That's that.
Mm-hmm.
Take it to car shows, maybe have some fun with it, and you're never going to turn it up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That way you're not paying for a bunch of stuff you don't need.
Yeah, especially if you're just going to run it super low boost and not get anything, not go too crazy with engine speed or anything like that. And then a little side note, since the last time you guys saw us, me and Matt both have SVT foci now.
Yes. Yes, we do. It was funny because I was like,
We're
Joe,
throwing
I
it back
found
old
this
school.
SVT Focus. And Joe's like, well, you were looking for me
Mm-hmm.
because I was looking for one because I wanted another one because this is my fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted another one. And then you found the blue one
Mm-hmm.
for me and I loved it, but I was already hot on the yellow one. So then you're like, all right, I'm just going to go buy the blue one for myself.
Yep. Yeah, I got it for Ashley to daily, and yeah, she likes it.
Cars.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely
a lot of
love those
fun.
Cars.
Now that we're off of that tangent, we'll go into the CARB video that we released. Was that 2 weeks ago, JD? Something like that?
A couple weeks ago.
Okay.
2 or 3 weeks ago, we released a video of Justin kind of walking around the SEMA garage facility, which for those that don't know is a place where if you're a member of SEMA, the automotive group, if you're a member of SEMA, they offer these things to you at a cost, but they offer you the ability to. It is not.
It turned off. It was on.
He's terrible.
I turned it on and then there.
He's got you some.
It
batteries
says
now.
full battery.
Oh.
I don't understand. Maybe I hit the button. Sorry.
But anywho, SEMA Garage, you can, if you're a member, you can pay to use some of the stuff they have available there. The stuff we were using at that point in
Right.
time was the emissions lab or emissions dyno. Hopefully here soon we'll have a CARB approved calibration kit package that you can put on a car in the state of California. So
Game
Cali guys, keep
changer.
your ears open. We'll release the, I guess, release date as soon as we have it.
Correct. Or you could just move.
Yep.
Because it's a pretty miserable state to live in.
Yep.
But if you insist on staying there, we will get you a kit.
Exactly. And then another thing we ran into recently that we wanted to touch on for you guys is the dangers of buying a modified Mustang
yes.
from dealerships or F-150s, or basically just the dangers of buying a modified car from a dealership that isn't really
Right.
in the know as to what's actually done to the car.
Seems to be a rash of that happening lately.
Yeah, and we'll start with why do people usually trade their cars in? Modified car.
So I can only speak for not personal experience, but experience of other people that have.
Mm-hmm.
I will say a large percent, in the 70 to 80% of the time range, it is because the car has some underlying problem or drivability issue or something that they cannot fix or figure out or cannot afford to fix, and they get pissed and they just say, I'm trading this thing in,
Yep.
and it goes bye-bye.
Yep.
So then the problem is they take their modified Mustang
Mm-hmm.
or their modified F-150 and they trade it in at a completely different dealership. So it ends up going to like Infiniti, Nissan, Toyota. It ends up at, or Dodge. It ends up in this really weird dealership. They have no idea what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So they just throw it on the used car lot, blow that bitch out,
Yep.
and then someone else
Or
buys
it goes
the
to
problem.
auction.
Right, or it goes to auction.
And
some
then another
other
dealer
dealership
buys
buys it.
Oh God.
So either way, if something is modified, got traded, and especially if it's heavily modified, and it got traded into a dealership, there's probably a reason why, and you should
Yeah.
get it checked out.
And that's not to say that you can't go out to a dealership and buy a decent used modified car.
Oh yeah,
But
for sure.
it's just you want to kind of be cognizant of the problems that may have led up to the car being traded in.
Correct.
Citing a most recent case, a car was traded into a dealership and it was traded in without a device. That's red flag number one.
Yeah, if there's no SET or N-gauge rolled up in the trunk, glove box, center console, stuffed under a seat, that's problem number one.
Customer brought it to us with concerns about a throttle body, but being that the car was flashed, we didn't know whether it had a stock tune on it and that's why it was having issues,
Right.
or if it had an aftermarket tune on it and it just wasn't calibrated right for the throttle body. Anywho, we go through it. The car was tuned for E85.
Yep, we found that out. When the fuel trims
How
were...
to tell that? It shows measured AFR 10 on the data log, and the cluster is reading around 9.8 to 10.1. And you know that there's pump gas in the car.
And the fuel trims are plus 30.
Or minus 30.
Or I'm sorry,
in this
minus
case.
30, yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, that was bad. Customer had been running it on 89 octane on an
So not only was
E85
it
tune.
tuned for E85, but it also had 89 in it. So it was missing the fuel and the octane.
And the octane. Yep. So
Good times.
we ended up getting that car figured out for the customer, so now they can come pick it up, drive it, do whatever they need to do with it. Didn't end up being a throttle body, just a culmination of things wrong with the car that had to be addressed.
You had some MAF wash going on.
Reverse MAF wash.
Reverse MAF wash. You
So
had
traditionally, the MAF wash that we would tell you guys to worry about is a exposed filter getting airflow across it in weird directions. The other form of it that we're finding more recently is a sealed air box that has an issue with the fan pulling air out of the air box. Instead of it being forced in, it changes the direction of airflow because the ram air duct sits right in front of the condenser.
I'm telling you, air straighteners are going to become a thing.
They really need to, man. But yeah, we fought that for a while. I ended up figuring that out, and yeah, just be cognizant of that stuff, guys. We've also had a truck come in here once that had a blower and everything on it. got traded in to a dealer. Customer that bought it from the dealer brought it to us, said it wasn't running right. Ended up being that the truck was tuned for E85. They had been running it on pump gas.
Yes.
And thankfully, in both these cases, neither of them seemed to have been damaged or hurt by
Right. They got
having
lucky.
all that E85
Yeah.
timing on 87 or 89 or whatever be the case.
This is a chance to put in another disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
Never, ever, 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 ever let the dealership fill up your tank.
Yeah.
If sometimes you go to the dealerships and they'll fill it up as a courtesy, or if you buy a used car with a supercharger on it. So let's say you go to Dodge and you find a deal on this used supercharged Mustang that got traded in.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have 87 in it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times dealerships either have a gas account or they have their own tank,
Mm-hmm.
and it's below 87. It's like what 87. It's like what 7-Eleven won't accept. It's like 84 and a half, and that is what gets put in the car. I worked at a number of dealerships. I know this.
Yep.
Even if it says premium only, it's getting 87. So the point of the or my disclaimer is: do not ever let dealership fill up your gas tank. And if you are buying a performance vehicle from the dealership, make sure you very, very gently run out that gas and fill it up with fresh 93 before leaving the dealership
Just
sideways.
pretend it's a new break-in period.
Right. Do not leave the dealership sideways with the gas that's in it.
So we've got a couple questions in here we should probably touch on. We got Bubba Blue. How many items are going to be priced at $599.99 after taxes and shipping? I know several people who blew their first stimulus with y'all and American Muscle. I don't know that we have plans of doing a stimulus package, but I can't say that we're not going to either because I don't know what.
Last time I checked, that was getting shot down. As of last night, it was getting shot down anyway. But according to what homie said, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So you may not be getting that.
We can find a way for you guys to spend $600 if you want to spend a stimulus check with us.
Correct.
Nick Sparks, Merry Christmas from everyone at SK Performance. Thank you, Chuck and VMP, for everything you guys
Aw.
do. Appreciate you, Nick.
You.
You got Dwayne. Fire away, homie.
Dwayne Roach installed a DW400 pump into a 1350 Mustang, and now the vehicle won't take gas. Can get a few clicks before the gas starts overflowing the filler neck. Any idea? Sounds like you did not install the gas tank vent line correctly, or it is kinked.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to do, but there's a one of the 13 plastic lines that goes on top of the tank and plugs in is the vent line. If you have that disconnected or if you have it kinked, you will not let the air out as the liquid fuel is going in over here. The air cannot escape.
So then the
and,
fuel backs up.
So then the
into
fuel backs up the
pump.
net and it kicks the nozzle off.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, you're going to have to take that back down.
Yep.
Good news is it's easy.
Yeah.
And if you can't get any gas in it, that means there's not that much in there to worry about.
Drew Kent, any data on the 3.1 at all? Already ordered mine. So we have data on it. I don't know what of that we can share with you.
This is what it sounds like.
That's the sound of boost. It makes boost. Nick Sparks. What about SK Performance Coyote billet timing guide? Is that to like a different?
I think he's talking
Question thing?
about.
No, that is SK Performance, and they made that. He's asked it.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. Sorry, man.
Kasadi, next time you do the goat thing, hold it closer to your mic. It was hard to hear.
Aw. So, okay, fine. This is what the 3.1 supercharger sounds like.
Now we got Dwayne, or not Dwayne, Dakota
Johnson?
Haywood. I think that's 100% true. Got really lucky about a year ago. Bought a 2010 GT500 with a VMP Gen 2 axles, diff change, ID1000s, intake, off-road exhaust, making 21 PSI on 93, 686 to the tires. God.
Wow.
21 pounds of 93. Yeah, I'd say you got pretty lucky too.
Yes.
Um,
So he knows.
oh, but this is GT500. Never mind. Okay. So
It's
yeah,
still
you,
spicy though. I mean.
yeah, if you got lucky in the sense that was it not set up right or tuned right, and
Correct.
you went out beating on it on 21 pounds, you'd have had a
With
bad
that 87
time.
that the dealership did him a favor and filled him up with.
Yeah, exactly. And then the SK Performance Coyote billet timing guides. Like I said, Nick, I have not seen your guys' Coyote timing guides yet, but I'm sure they're awesome.
And very shiny because they're
yeah.
usually billet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it says billet right there. So
Or I'm sorry, what I meant to say is because they're billet,
yeah,
they're usually very shiny.
Exactly. Aram Isayan. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Sorry, bud. I have a question regarding Ford Innovation E85 VMP fuel rail, ID 1050D. Ignition on and off, build pressure to 55 psi. Will pressure drops at a regulator gauge when it sits
Yes.
down? My issue is hard start only when it sits down for 24 hours, pressure dropping to 0 within 4 minutes. Is that normal? I'd say that's normal.
Yes, that is normal.
The way to fix that would be to use a check valve, an inline check valve.
Or cycle the key twice.
Yeah.
If you feel that it's not building up pressure, you can turn the key on, let it prime, turn the key off, turn the key back on again, let it prime some more, and then
finally
start it.
try to start it.
That would also help fix the issue. Or check valve would be the proper way to do it.
Yeah.
Certain pumps, I
Have
believe
built-in check valves.
some of them have built-in check valves, some of them don't. I believe the 400s don't,
Mhm.
but I think the
I
465s.
think they were adding them in.
Yeah, they were.
Like
it
when
was
they originally
weird.
came out, they didn't have them, and then they were adding them in.
And then I think the DWs do not, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think the DW 400s have a check valve, but I could be mistaken. Either way, the point is, some of them have check valves, some of them don't. If you
Mhm.
have one that doesn't have one, you could add one or just turn the key to prime the system a couple of times.
So force-fed 5.0, how good is that VMP underhood ice tank? Would a 7-gallon rear-mounted work better because bigger? So not necessarily. It ultimately depends on what you're doing, and what you're doing with an ice tank is capacity.
Correct.
And what I mean by capacity is different size ice tanks grant you different amounts of capacity that you have to put energy into. So like
Correct.
a 2-gallon tank at 32 degrees Fahrenheit being pumped through an intercooler that's seeing like 300-degree discharge temp is going to take a certain amount of heat over a certain period of time and put it into that fluid and bring up the temperature of the water. So like the more water you have, the more time you have under load to
Correct.
where your temps are going to be lower. So if your starting point's 32 degrees and you have 7 gallons of fluid and you're putting the same amount of energy into that fluid over the same period of time, when you have a smaller tank, your ending temperature is going to be higher over like a 10-second soak period with that load. Whereas if you have a 7-gallon tank and that same, we'll call it 10-second soak period, your temperature is going to be lower because you have more capacity. If you think about it as batteries, because batteries store energy and then discharge it, it's kind of the opposite way, where this is kind of like an absence of energy in the sense that it's lower temperature fluid.
Well, you can
and
still
you're
use
adding
batteries,
that
for
energy in.
example. Basically, like if you had a rechargeable AA,
Mhm.
your rechargeable AA, you'll be able to charge in 30 minutes, and your rechargeable D battery is going to take 4 hours because it's significantly larger. There's more capacity. It's going to take longer to charge it up, and so it's kind of the same concept. It's going to take longer to heat up 4 gallons of water than it is to heat up 1 gallon of water.
Yeah, exactly. So along those lines, if you're just doing quarter-mile stuff in a car that isn't heating water with like a blowtorch, your capacity with our VMP underhood ice tank is going to be fantastic for quarter-mile stuff. If you're doing mile racing stuff, probably want a 7-gallon tank. The disadvantage to those bigger tanks and bigger rear-mounted setups is that you're adding a lot of weight into the car.
Yes.
So if you have
That is very true.
15 feet of 1-inch hose going 2 ways in a 7-gallon tank,
It weighs a lot.
and even if the tank's made of aluminum, you're still filling it with 7 gallons worth of water and ice. So your weight comes up quick.
I'm trying to think. When I pulled my air to water off my car back in the day, I had a TIG Vision tank. So between the tank, 20 pounds of ice, plus the water, plus the lines, plus the air to water that sits in the front, I was almost 200 pounds. So now, granted, this was a big air to water in the front, but I'm just saying to give you it's
That's
a
a
lot.
lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight.
So essentially, I'd try to figure out how much capacity you need based on how long you plan on being while wanting cold temps, and build it for that.
Correct.
So if you're only doing quarter-mile stuff, I think the underhood ice tank's a great thing to put on a car.
Yeah. I would save the big giant tanks for repeated back-to-back runs or half-mile, standing mile stuff.
And we got Dwayne. I think you answered his question before. Or no, was it
No, we're at all things boost now. I thought.
Dwayne? Yeah, he was the DW 400 pump about the
Yes.
filler neck stuff. So,
Oh, he said thank you for the answer. Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yep,
you're
yep.
welcome.
and then all things boost. 10-to-1 compression and a 5.4 iron block GT500, a good idea. Stock is 8.4-to-1. Curious what you've seen. Getting ready to bottom end build and found a set of rods and pistons for a good deal, worth it.
It depends on what kind of fuel.
Yeah, so if you're going to run it on pump gas and you plan on getting crazy with boost, I'd say that 10-to-1 is probably not a good idea. But if you're running it on E85, C16, some sort of race fuel or high octane fuel,
Then absolutely.
10-to-1 is a good idea.
Put more in it.
You just have to, yeah, exactly. You kind of have to set a power goal, set how much boost you're wanting to have to use to get there,
Yep.
and make an assumption for how much octane or what type of fuel you're going to be running in the car.
See.
Doing it like that's going to set you up the best way for picking compression and picking the culmination of engine parts you want / need to achieve that goal.
I have to
And then
get
we
one.
got, oh God.
I have to get one.
We got Dakota Haywood. Took it in to get legal exhaust put on, contacted you guys for a tune, and you guys said we won't tune it unless you pulley up and put the boosters on it, or boostain and boosters. Now she's got cams, headers, and boostain, making 754 and 665 to the wheels. Glad to hear, man. Glad you got set up and
I
got all
hope.
the stuff you needed to be.
I will say that I hope it doesn't have cams and cats.
Ish.
Depends on the
Ish.
cams.
Yeah, exactly. SC302. You want this one, Matt? I've been running with him.
Yeah, SC302 VY can is Majoris. 2013 with a Gen 2R and a booster pump with 93. The car misfires on startup. Should I log it or is this a common thing? First thing I would say is use whatever tool you have and do a crank relearn just to get that out of the way. It seems to be a whole rash of that lately with cars needing crank relearns. Do the crank relearn. If it still does it, I would move down the line. Maybe needs a fresh set of plugs. It's a 13, so it's going to need NGK 6510s. Make sure they're gapped correctly. Even though they're iridiums, they don't last as long as people think they last. So put a fresh set of plugs in it. If it still does it, then we could possibly look at the tune, but assuming we tuned it. But generally speaking, they should not be doing that. So it's usually a misfire monitor or the actual plug issue.
Yeah, and it depends on whether or not you're just perceiving misfires or if it's throwing misfire codes for first 1,000 revolutions or
Correct.
something like that. So if it's throwing misfire codes, like Matt said, if you don't know condition of plugs, check plugs. Replace plugs isn't a bad idea to do. I wouldn't say that cars having misfires on startup is normal. And trying to think if there's anything else we should cover there. And basically, if you do plugs in it, or you know that the plugs are brand new and that they're good, hit us up. We'll send you data logging instructions if it's tuned by us, and we'll let you know what we want to see for that. And then Austin Brooks, is this going to be a weekly thing again? JD, you tell me.
I don't know.
Working on it.
They're working
Okay,
on it.
We're working on it.
Possibly.
Aram,
He said, I do have a check valve, and I've also tried the ignition on and off a couple times, but it still didn't help. So then you could have a actual crank fuel issue. If you have a fuel system, maybe you're on
well, he was saying
E85.
that pressure was going to 0.
Yeah, which is normal though, but when he's keying on, it should pop right back up. So I'm assuming that it is popping up, but he's still having starting issues, which means it might be a crank fuel in the tune situation.
Potentially. Yeah, I guess shoot us an email with a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, I don't know if
Sunspot.
we've tuned you or not, but shoot us an email. We might be able to help point you in the right direction.
And Sunspot, I put the return VMP fuel system in my 14 GT500. Jesse helped me with getting the wiring figured out. He said the wires from the pump for the fuel level didn't matter which one went to what wire on the harness side. I have everything disconnected. I have not started the car yet, but when I turn the key to on, the fuel pressure gauge says E and has gas in it. Do Do you have to actually start the car for it to read fuel level?
No.
Not necessarily. I would, at key on, I would check to see if you have any DTC codes related to fuel level. If you do have any DTC codes related to fuel level, clear them and then key on again. If it's still showing E, it would just beg the question if whether or not your fuel level is actually E. I know that you just had your fuel hat out if you swapped it. So make sure that you actually have gas in it. And then if that doesn't work, check your wiring again, because like Jesse said, the polarity of it doesn't matter. It's just going through a resistor. And then from there, maybe you possibly damage the fuel level sending unit when you're putting the hat back in.
That's what I was thinking.
You got to look at that.
They're very delicate.
Yeah. In terms of actually having to start the car to read fuel level, no, you typically don't have to. Todd King, Merry Christmas, guys. Hope your holidays are blessed. Todd King at SK Performance. Man, we got everyone at SK saying hi. Appreciate you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you guys as well. Ian Guthrie. Fire away, Matt.
Huh?
I said fire away, Matt.
Do you think Santa has air density issues when he's running his supercharged sleigh at 10,000 feet? No, because he has a VMP on it and he just pulleys down.
I was going to say his reindeer are turbocharged, so they just make up for the atmosphere with more turbo speed.
Yes.
Kayla Reed, my big brother Joe. Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas, Kayla. Cat Killer. E85 and cold weather don't play very good together. Is there anything I can do to help with the starting in cold weather? Depends on what type of fuel you're running on and what the setup is. The global answer for startups on E85 and super cold weather
is more.
Yeah, more fuel. If you want to go the hood rat way, you can use ether or something. Yeah, that's kind of the deal. If you're tuned by us and you're having issues with cold start on E85, shoot us an email. Abdullah Samir, what fuel would you have on 28.5 degrees of timing, full bolt on NA Gen 1 Coyote? Are we assuming wide open throttle in this? If we're assuming wide open throttle in a full bolt on NA Gen 1 Coyote, you could have 28.5 degrees on some 93 octane, depending on the quality of the fuel. Some cars only take 23 on like 91. Some cars will take 25, 26 on 93, but I have seen cars take 28.5 on 93. Ultimately depends on the quality of the fuel.
So this got switched around. All things boost. Plans are to run E85. Greatly appreciate the answer. Aiming for a reliable 900 to 1,000 wheel.
Yeah.
And then, which you're welcome. And then Chuck Harder, Joe, you're not allowed to like turbos.
It's in the Geneva Convention.
It's in the Geneva Convention.
I currently have 3 turbocharged vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, we're not ignorant.
Ignorant?
We're not ignorant.
Kevin Rios, what do you recommend on a 2012 F-150 with a Coyote engine?
Gen 3R.
Boost, airflow, and octane.
Horse pressures.
Yes, horse pressures.
More atmospheres.
Dakota Haywood, L&M NSRs. So you'll probably be okay with
Yeah,
L&M NSRs. They're not
some craziness.
No, they're not gigantic cams. Not to say that they're small by any means, but it's not something obnoxious that's just going to rattle cats out of the car.
Ooh, that's a 240, 250 at 50 kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
On 110.
God.
Yes.
Yeah. Mitch Butler, shout out to your sales. I picked up a good amount of boosting and arrived in a day. Also, any common areas to diagnose false knock, 18MT82, the Pro Charger, knock sensors, see 1 to 5 on shifts. That's just kind of the deal with those,
man. That's kind of the deal.
Yeah.
If you've got, generally, we don't always, well, actually, we very rarely recommend this, but it does work in certain situations. If you've got known good octane in the tank and you know it's false, just desensitize the sensors in that area.
Yeah.
So it won't pull that much timing, or limit how much it can pull in that area. And that way you don't have to wait for the sensors to add it back in.
Yeah.
And it'll make you faster.
We got John Kochka. How can I get more power on 2014 Mustang GT with VMP Gen 2 kit? Headers, VMP SCT tune. Currently it's 637 rear-wheel horsepower. It is stock other than items above.
Probably Boostain.
Yeah, you're probably octane limited.
Yeah, 637. You're
Gen-
about done on 93.
Yeah, Gen 2 kit, that's kind of what they make on pump gas.
Yeah,
If
you're
you
gonna
want a
need
little
some
bit more
octane.
from it, put a fuel system in E85 in it, or put it on Boostain, or run it on race gas. If you have a Gen 2 kit with a twin 60 millimeter throttle body, you can do a twin 67. And that's kind of it on pump gas if you already have headers and stuff. Force fed 5.0. Any Christmas sales on your ice tanks? Do you know if there's any Christmas sales on ice tanks?
Not technically, email or call us.
Email or call us is the answer on that. Terry Reese, any 3100 talk available today? So, in order to help alleviate any more 3100 questions for the day, if you have no interest in making 1200 horsepower tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
3100 is not for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can't say that. It's pretty much
if-
impossible to slow it down enough to make it.
Like, we can slow it down enough for guys that want super aggressive,
Right.
like not E85 tunes, like Boostain tunes type of thing. But 3100 is essentially going to be for the guys that are running around on race gas with built
Yes.
motors or E85
Yeah.
or racers. That's it.
I mean, I don't want to talk anyone out of a sale, but I almost want to say if you don't have a built motor, 3100 is not for you.
Yeah, the 2650 fills that hole perfectly. The
Correct.
pump gas, towed around town guys.
All the way up to 1,000.
Well, hell,
even
all
a
the way
little bit
up
over
to
it, yeah.
1150, 1200.
Yeah.
Up above that, 3100 makes more sense. But at the end of the day, we're talking about engines that are, in a 5 liters case, 5 liters of engine displacement. You're putting a 3.1 liter blower on it. You have
Yeah.
to slow it way down to get it to make something safe boost-wise on pump
Yeah.
gas, and it doesn't make sense to do. Chuck Harder.
Chuck being an instigator. So you both have SBT Foci.
I smell a grudge
I
race.
smell a grudge race.
Well, we tried to lock in that race the other day, but Matt's like, "Yo, I don't got a plate. I ain't
Right,
trying to
I
catch
didn't
a
have
felony."
I can't go street race you without a license plate, Joe.
Oh,
I got to at least have some kind of reasonable story when we get pulled over, okay? I can't get arrested for
Soon.
street racing and
Soon.
not having a plate on the car.
We'll have some Sonic Blue on Screaming Yellow Crime here soon.
Yes.
Tim Quinn Road Heaver. Merry Christmas, guys. Keep up the great work. Appreciate you, Tim. And Pablo 50. What size belt do I need to run a 69 millimeter pulley 6 rib on an Odin Supercharger 2018
I
Mustang
don't know
GT?
these questions, Joe.
Yeah, in terms of belt sizes on Odin, I'm not sure what the belt sizes are. You'd have to hit up sales, which would get in touch with.
I know it's an 8 rib.
The
Does
shop.
that help?
No, it's 6 rib.
Or I'm sorry, 6 rib. Jesus Christ.
You're getting murdered over.
I'm getting murdered. I don't know anything about the belts.
Yeah. SE302, VY Canis Majoris. Any plans on making a fuel system for the SM95? No.
No.
There's plenty of people that make a good fuel system.
Yeah,
for
that's
that.
kind of the problem. There's just so many out there, and they all work reasonably well. Each one has its pros and cons, and
Yeah.
there's
you-
high and low price points.
If you hit us up, we can get you configured into a fuel system that should fit all your needs. We just need to know what your we need to know what your needs are to begin
Right.
with. But yeah, hit up sales. They can
Yeah,
get
we'll
you.
sell you a fuel
they can
system.
get you
We just
hooked
don't
up.
have any plans to make our own.
Yeah, exactly. And Terry Reese. Okay, when do we start Boostain tune?
He's the one that wants more.
Yeah, so I guess just order a tune update, and that's where we start.
Right? Order some
If you-
Boostain, order a Batoon update
Mm-hmm.
for the Boostain, and then we'll go like this, and it'll work.
And beep boop boop.
Yes.
So,
I have your belt size.
How did
Okay.
you do that? Oh, you got the
oh,
chart.
Jesse's probably watching. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in the reference guide. 69, and 10% overdrive 722 is on the information we have on that. But
So
we don't have anything-
69 with a 10% overdrive is 722 belt.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know what that would be with a stock balancer.
we don't have any information on stock balancer for that small.
Yeah.
Wow, I tried to.
C.
So Michael Callahan is an aftermarket torque converter recommended 10R80 on a max effort Odin build on an 18 F-150. If so, Suncoast or Circle D. See you next month. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily necessary. It really depends on how the truck's leaving, because there's a lot of people that run around on stock converters that do just fine.
What is old Manuel running?
I don't know. I know that one of the fastest 10R80 Whipple cars,
Has a stock converter.
one of my buddies, was stock converter. Still is stock converter.
Basically,
The guys with aftermarket converters weren't
yeah.
really going much
would
faster than
would
him.
it help you? Probably. Is it needed? No. As
Mhm.
far as which one, I don't have any data on either one. I can't tell you.
Yeah, I think I did a Circle D car, but it flashed up really high, but I don't know what it would have flashed up on that setup on a stock converter.
Correct.
Like it probably would have been 3,500, and this one was flashing up to $5,000, and
And you're locking the converter once it launches anyway.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Or
there's
at least
that.
not far after launch.
Correct.
And then, so we'll touch on something else. I think I've talked about this a couple times with you guys. I don't know if I've covered it in any other videos, but fuel swapping, specifically in reference to Terry Reese's question about boostane tunes.
Yes.
I cover this with people that I deal with on the dyno that want to go from a 93 tune to 100 or 93 to 85 and all that stuff.
Yep.
So a thing to be aware of if you don't have an aftermarket return style fuel system with an aftermarket regulator and all that stuff. So we're talking specifically to the guys with 11 to 20 Mustang GTs with stock fuel systems, whether that be with a booster or without a booster, doesn't really matter. But essentially, when you fill up your tank, you fill up this giant tank or reservoir of fuel. And then you have this little fuel pump basket hat thing sitting inside it that pumps fuel out of that to the engine through means by which lines and stuff. So when you swap fuels, let's say you get your car as close to E as you can and you fill it up with E85, you put 14 gallons in the tank. So the fuel that's being ingested by the pump is pressurized and returned in the hat. So when you fill your car up, your lines, your rails, and your injectors all still have the previous fuel you were using, in this specific case, gasoline-based fuel.
Correct.
You went to E85. So now your car has to ingest all of that fuel that's in the lines, the pumps, the rails, and the injectors.
Which is usually a good bit.
Before it's ever burned by the engine. So usually about a gallon and a half of fuel is how much it has to burn through the rails. In 2018s, they have two fuel systems that kind of like bisect each other at the fuel rail.
Yes.
So you have your DI high pressure side and you have your port injection low pressure side fuel system. In startup crank run up, the DI is used, and then shortly thereafter it goes into port injection. So when you swap fuels on a DI car, you almost need to drive it under varying conditions to get the fuel that you're putting in the tank when you're swapping fuels in the DI side, because the DI is only used on crank run up, aggressive loads, and wide open throttle. So you could, in theory, drive your car 65, 70 miles under very light load and never
Right.
get the fuel that's in the DI burn through it to get the new fuel in. So hypothetical scenario, you fill your car up with E85, it's on a stock fuel system, you go wide open throttle leaving the gas station after you swap to your E85 tune. You still have 93 in the rails, and you still have 93 in the DI rails, and you still have 93 in the low side rails.
Yep. And you have to get rid of all of it.
Yep. And now you're rich by 20-30%, but you're seeing E85 timing. Let's hope that your NOx sensors are pulling enough timing to where it's safe.
Right.
And let's say another 15-20 miles down the road, you burned a gallon of fuel in the port injection side.
Right.
So your port injection's now seeing E85. So your idle very light part throttle cruise stuff, you're running on E85, but when you go wide open throttle, it's going to inject 93. So the octane that you need at wide open throttle isn't there. The fuel mass that you need at wide open throttle is it's actually more than you need because you're running a pump gas fuel instead of an E85. So it's not only is it rich at wide open throttle, but it's fine at part throttle. Anyways, what I'm getting at here is make sure that you run all of the fuel out of the rails before you go beating on the car.
And
whether
it takes
that's
longer
with boostane.
Right, and it takes longer to do that than you think.
Yep, especially in an 18 up car.
Yeah, people think, oh, I put put fuel in, or I put E85 in the gas station. I can change the tune at the gas station, and then I can drive it a mile down the road and go hammer on it. You cannot do this.
Yeah. Don't drive your car out to the track on 93, drain the
Right.
tank, fill it up with E85, and then go make rips down the quarter mile.
Now, if you have a return system, that helps.
If you have a return system, that helps. How close your regulator is to the rails before it returns changes how much time it's going to take for the E85 or 93 that's in the rails to be burned.
We've been full of public service announcements.
I know. I'm just trying to help the people, dude.
I understand.
Tim Quinn Road Heaver. We install a good many VMP kits on Coyotes. I've seen a bunch of PCV valves go bad after some miles on these specific cars. Do you think the blower is killing them? Always replace them with EcoBoost PCV valves, and it seems like problem solved. Have you all seen this before? I can't say I've seen that before.
I haven't, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean I don't know if there's anything specific supercharger that would cause the PCV valves to go bad, but the kind of like the dynamics of blow-by and crankcase pressure that's generated when you have a supercharger may be part of that.
It would make sense I don't know anything about, the EcoBoost valve, but at the same time, it would make sense that the
I
valve
want to say it has
designed
a
for
check
a
valve or something in
well, it would just make sense that the valve that is designed for a boosted engine would work better.
it. Yeah.
So,
And we've got Cat Killer, 2017 GT at 885 rear wheel horsepower, 723 torque, corrected Denver, running an 82 millimeter pulley, 15-inch PSI boost. Can I reach 1,000 rear wheel horsepower by changing the pulley? Car has upgraded fuel system, clutch rear end, etc. If so, what size?
I mean, he has more to go on pulley.
I assume since he's on 82 and making 15 pounds that he's on a Gen 3 or Gen 3R setup. If you went down to like a 69 or 66, you'd probably make 1,000 corrected. If not, be very close to that. And I don't know that I would expect that same power number when you're legitimately at sea level with a blower car, though. It'd probably make a tiny bit less than what it's making with a correction factor in Denver. All things boost. Just curious, which is a better blower design, the Odin or Gen 3R, and why? What would each be better at in terms of applications? So, hood clearance, Odin is king.
Yes.
Intercooler design, Odin is king.
Yes.
Inlet design, Gen 3R and Odin are both very good. I would say that that you should not sleep on a rear feed inlet Gen 3R. Thinking that Odin is going to drastically outperform it, because it doesn't.
I mean, I got asked this question the other day, and we kind of talked about it, and it's pretty much below 1,000. The differences are pretty negligible.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that's what we talked about. There's really no measurable difference between the two until you really start.
Yeah, the only measurable difference I found is the IATs.
Yeah.
Below 1,000 wheel. Over 1,000 wheel, they're still pretty close, even over 1,000 wheel. I'd say from a packaging standpoint, if you have a tight hood clearance issue to worry about, or you like the looks of an Odin more, or you like the looks of a Gen 3R more, I'd kind of let that dictate which one you go with, more so than Odin versus Gen 3R from an inlet design standpoint.
And like you said, I feel like the Odin has a little bit better intercooler, because it's 2 intercoolers instead of 1.
Mm-hmm.
So the intercooler setup on an Odin tends to work a little bit better as well.
Yeah. And then we got Todd O'Leary. So Todd is in Australia.
Oh.
Had one of our blowers on his car. I don't know if he does or not anymore, but he had one of the records for supercharged Coyotes down there for a while. I don't know if he still does, but Merry Christmas to you as well, Todd.
Just confirming I have a Gen 3R.
No.
Oh, okay.
Technically, yeah.
Yep.
He was trying to make 1,000 rear wheel horsepower up in Denver. He has a Gen 3R. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, probably 69 would be your best bet. And then, how long would we be doing the stream now?
We're about at 50 minutes.
Okay, we'll call it there then.
Le film.
You have anything else you want to touch on before we leave, Matt?
This goat.
The goat
I
screaming.
touched the goat.
Okay, so we have I don't know, we got a lot of stuff coming up in this next year. I guess keep an eye out. You'll get a notification if we end up doing one of these videos again here soon. We'll try and figure out possibly doing something on a weekly basis again, I guess. And I guess let us know what all you guys want to see on here. But for now, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Do what you guys do. Be safe out there.
It's
While
I
people
couldn't help
are
it.
playing inflatable floating tube